the 18th of May, and I would like to welcome you to this Cabinet meeting. First of all, I just want to run through some new arrangements. So for benefits of the member of the public who are listening in this morning, this Cabinet meeting is going to be slightly different from the virtual meetings of Cabinet that have been held previously. Earlier this month, the powers to hold decision-making meetings virtually were discontinued. And as a consequence of this, and because we are not currently able to use our council chamber as it is being used as the Rutland Vaccination Centre, I have for the time being delegated the ability to make decisions to the individual portfolio holders, but in consultation with the whole of Cabinet. This consultation is the meeting that is taking place this morning. Instead of the usual roll call of members to take the decisions, I will seek via a show of hands Cabinet members' general agreement or disagreement with the recommendations in the report. And following this consultation, the decisions of the individual portfolio holders will be published on or before Wednesday, the 19th of May, and implemented the following week, which is the 24th of May, unless the call-in procedure is invoked. Before we turn to the agenda proper, I would also like to welcome our new member of Cabinet, Councillor Ian Rosell. Welcome, Ian. So starting on the main agenda, apologies for absence. We've had one from Councillor Walters. Yeah. Any others? No? None have been received. Item 2, announcements from the chairman or the head of paid service. I haven't had anything. No, I'm seeing a shaking head there. Thank you very much. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No, I see none. Thank you very much. Item 4, record of decisions. Cabinet are being asked to confirm the record of decisions made at the meeting of Cabinet held on the 16th of March 2021. So I'm happy to propose those. Somebody second them. Thank you, Councillor Welby. And all those in favour, obviously Councillor Rosell would have to abstain. Thank you. Item 5, items raised by scrutiny. I believe there are none, is that right?
Yeah, there are none.
Thank you very much. So we move on to item 6, which is the revocation of risk-based verification policy, which would be down to Councillor Payne. Thank you.
Chair, Mr. Delacour is going to take this item. If that's okay.
Fine, thank you very much. Thank you. Over to you, Sav.
Yep. Thanks, Chair. So the council approved a risk-based verification framework back in 2017. That effectively allowed us to effectively apply a risk assessment to housing benefit claims that came through the door, and to do more checks where we believe that the claims were at higher risk. We set a policy accordingly. We invested in some software that allowed us to record what we were doing and why. And actually, the whole regime was audited by the external auditors as part of their housing subsidy claim audit. Since that time, things have moved on a little bit. So the DWP have introduced a trust and protect model. And effectively, we can now get a lot more information from the DWP and HMRC via DWP. So, for example, if we have a new benefit claimant as a pensioner, for example, we can get details of their pensionable income from DWP, whether that's a state pension or private pension. Similarly, for working age claimants, we can get a lot of information now in real time from DWP about salaries, etc. What this effectively means is that the need for a risk-based verification framework is not there. The fact that there is little demand for the software now reflects that, really. So what this paper is suggesting is that we revoke the policy that we originally agreed, and that we continue to apply the trust and protect model that the DWP guidance covers. And we will continue to do an element of risk-based on claims, but it will be according to the judgments that the officers make at the time, and according to the information that we can already get. By doing this, then from a claimant's point of view, there will be little impact, because the onus is always on us to try and minimise the amount of information we ask for. So the claimant, I don't believe, will see much difference. From a financial point of view, it does give us a saving because we don't need to invest in the risk-based verification software. And the budget paper that is on the agenda for later on does in fact include the saving arising from the decision that we might make here. That's all I wanted to say, Chair. I hope that's fairly straightforward, but happy to take any questions in the normal way.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any questions or comments on this paper? I just have one, if that's possible. The information, I think you mentioned the word real time. So we have access to the database relatively through the new system, do we?
Yes, so in the old days, we would ask people for pay slips and stuff like that. Now, because we have access to DWP systems, we are less reliant on claimants telling us about changes in circumstances. We can access that information online, yes.
Fantastic. So it's a better service really all round, which is great.
Yes, for all really.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I think the way we go forward is that the portfolio holder is happy to approve the intention to revoke the risk-based verification policy with immediate effect. And does Cabinet, yeah, and I'm happy to second that. So are we all in favour? Can we raise our hands if we are? Please, I think that's unanimous for today, counting to 5. Thank you. We now move on to item 7, which is the performance update 2021, which is my responsibility. So we have developed a new corporate plan, or we developed a new corporate plan in 19/20, and this was due to be refreshed in 2021, but COVID took over the key priorities for the council. We've continued to monitor our performance, and there are some areas that we probably do not gain any insight into service delivery. And partly with this in mind, we're looking forward to refreshing our corporate plan later this year, using information that will come from the future Rutland conversation that's happening at this moment, as this will tell us what matters most to the Rutland residents. This will also help us devise a revised performance framework for 2023. The organisation has had to reprioritise services and staff, and if we look at Appendix A, we can see some of the things that have not delivered within the suggested timeframes, and an explanation on progress such as the future Rutland conversation. Others have actually been completed. So business as usual in many areas has continued, as in the rollout of improved broadband with the local full fibre network, and some have had to cease as it was not possible to deliver, such as the passenger transport strategy. We have managed to support many residents in their time of need and also kept our eyes on projects such as My Account, which hopefully be launched in July, subject to the pressures from managing COVID. And Appendix B uses the red, amber, green or RAG rating system, and some are not within the council's control, such as housing delivery, which has seen a reduction in the expected target, but was still 89% higher than our expectation. Our planning team have worked throughout the pandemic and have achieved well above target, yet interestingly, our waste recycling has fallen below the 57.8% target. And due to the reprovision of services and bad weather, and with further complications, we've had an increase in missed bins. And this is one of those areas that I wonder on the relevance when there are factors that can impact outside the contractor's immediate control, with the increased tonnage of waste, which so many of us living at home for the last year and a bit. Clearly, visits to libraries, heritage sites, and the like will have severely reduced numbers. And I do not think that the report, when considered in the light of COVID and the impact that it has had on the whole county, the results are a tribute to our staff and the professional way that they have delivered our services. On page 34 and 35, there are some changes to performance indicators for 2021-2022, either removal or changes, such as library visits to be moved from annually to quarterly. Customer service satisfaction rates instead of percentage of abandoned calls after 5 minutes and percentage of answered calls. And finally, we're going to include the staff turnover, excluding casuals, with a target of below 12.6%. And I believe this is always a good indicator of a healthy organisation, as an amount of churn keeps the organisation sound and effective. Appendix C covers the projects, and again, the impact of COVID and some of the decisions that we've taken have impacted on the ratings. And refocusing of efforts has also impacted, such as the leisure contract and the pressure being faced by SLL in providing these services. And health has been focused on supporting the communities through the pandemic, has also managed to deliver on many parts of the ICS. This has fallen slightly behind target date. So all in all, with 38 KPIs above target and 15 below target, I think this is a really respectable achievement. So what I'd like to do is, I'm happy to take any questions on this now, but first of all, I'd like to just be noting the overall performance of the position 2020-2021 and the actions being taken to address the underperformances. Approves the proposed changes to the KPI framework, and notes plans to develop performance reporting against a corporate plan in time for 22-23. So Cabinet are asked to note items 1 and 3, and approval for item 2 will follow from me, subject to our discussions. So I'm open to questions or comments, please. No?
Councillor Wilby has his hand up, Chair.
Oh, sorry, I can't. Sorry, thank you. Councillor Wilby.
Thanks, Chair. No, I'd just like to say that the pandemic this year has shown us the need to be dynamic in our leadership, and I think we've responded pretty well. I think it shouldn't lead us to complacency, but the performance that we do has got to change to meet the surrounding circumstances and a lot of common sense. So I take my hat off to our staff, who I know have done a really difficult job very well in difficult conditions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, just building on what David has said, I think these performance management reports always give a really useful snapshot of where we're at as an authority. And I think there's some incredibly good news stories within here when you are considering the 12 months that everybody's had to face, and it's absolutely incredible. I think the things which have been picked up as needing a bit of improvement are confirming the impact of COVID on some of our services. And I think what's really heartening is that, as David said to Nick Hisward, we are a dynamic authority. Officers are responding, making sure that we're testing and evaluating and monitoring the right things to make sure that we continue delivering as well as we do deliver. And then just one thing I wanted to pick up from a very selfish portfolio point of view, I was very pleased to see 3.5.1 with regard to the improvement in the condition of our roads across the board. I am highlighting that because I would say the 7.4 miles of B and C roads from Uppingham to Oakham have attracted a lot of attention, and I think that that is reassuring for the public to know that actually our roads still remain in good condition and we are still improving on that. So that was a very selfish, self-indulgent little mention there, Leader, and that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. I totally agree that actually our staff and our teams have done a fantastic job through some incredibly difficult times. And, you know, we should take our hat off to them for the effort and the consistency they've delivered for the organisation and for the county. Any other questions or comments?
Councillor Rozelle has his hand up, Chair.
Thank you. I need to get my screen so I can see the hands. We'll have to do the real hands for the time being. Okay, Councillor Rozelle, thank you.
No, Chair, thank you. And I suppose the only observation I have is that the extraordinary effort and hard work from officers isn't reflected in the documents because no one knew this was coming. So, you know, it's another layer of effect that's been delivered and an action that sadly isn't represented in the documentation. But I take my hat off to an extraordinary team.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? No. Thank you very much. So with a show of hands, can I please see if we have support for this? Thank you. Unanimous. We now move on to item 8, which is the budget savings 2021-2022. And I think this is yours, Councillor Payne. Thank you.
Indeed it is. Thank you, Chair. For everybody, Rutland residents and council colleagues alike, surviving the past 18 months of the pandemic have posed great personal and commercial challenge, making it a time like no other we've experienced in the past. COVID has generated ever-changing demand on the council through rapidly and frequently changing regulation and direction, creation of vaccination and testing centres, administering and delivering over £14 million worth and thousands of grants, changing demands of social care for residents, to name but a few aspects. And on top of all of this, we've continued to deliver business as usual. I'd like to thank my RCC colleagues up front for doing such an excellent job in coping so admirably with all that's been thrown at them in this very turbulent time. Thank you. Against this backdrop, in February, the Council set a budget that drew on £2.4 million of reserves, setting the task of achieving budget reductions of £1 million in 21-22 and a further £1 million in 2022-23 to replenish these reserves and balance the medium-term financial plan. In support of the budget challenge, proposals have been put forward by RCC officers that deliver a set of easier, shorter term projects that we can deliver now and bigger, longer term projects that will deliver at some stage in the future. These potential savings are included in the document you see today and have been through all scrutiny committees. Committee comments in the papers are generally supportive. Hopefully times are changing, we look forward to recovering from COVID, but the Council is still understanding what the new landscape will look like, and it continues to carry a financial risk that we need to mitigate to deal with this uncertainty. We still have much work to do against this backdrop. The impact of the pandemic could create unknown demands on income and demand-led budgets. Future government funding is unknown. We're expecting a social care white paper, and we still face capacity and resource issues because COVID demands still conflict with everyday business. It is imperative, therefore, that we mitigate these risks and aim to produce a balanced budget by recommending to Council the principles outlined in the document that guide future work in respect of decision-making and budget savings, together with savings to be applied in 21-22 of £598,000 and changes to funding of £613,000. I am fully supportive of this, and let's get on with it. We need to deliver savings this year and make an impact on this year's budget and replenish our reserves. There is further work to be done on the longer term savings, and which may or may not require us to produce resource to release benefits. To this end, item C requests £172,000 in Invest and Save and £328,000 from 2021 anticipated savings to be drawn down only if required under delegated authority from the Director Chief Finance Officer in consultation with the CEO and portfolio holder finance. Please be assured I have absolutely no desire to spend this money and will need strongly convincing to do so. But if after doing due diligence we find large financial gain in a justified business case, we may to invest a little to deliver a large prize. Scrutiny identified the fact we need to accelerate the delivery of some larger projects, and if we are constrained by resource, we may need to invest to meet this objective. I really do need to emphasise the point, no money will be spent unless there is proven significant gain. Moving on to the provisional position for the 2021 budget outturn, which was unknown at the time of the scrutiny panels a few weeks ago. I am very pleased to present a positive position of £2.4 million underspend against the year-end budget. We are aware that we were £1 million underspent at the end of Q3, thanks to the prudential management of the previous portfolio holder. Budget forecasting was difficult during the pandemic for the same reasons that I outlined earlier. And in Q4, we entered yet another national lockdown, which produced impacts on budgets we didn't anticipate. For example, we saw a drop in forecasted demand for adult social care of 300,000, a drop in demand for children's social care of 120,000, excuse me. We provisioned for bad debt on rental income for properties that didn't materialise, that amounted to 150,000. And there was a higher number of planning applications than we anticipated, which amounted to another 86,000, and so on. These are just examples. The year-end outturn full detailed report will be scrutinised by Growth, Infrastructure and Resources Committee on the 10th of June. It's true to say some members have expressed surprise at the stated £2.4 million underspend, but even though these are unprecedented times, I had to get that word in somewhere, and there are strong reasons for the underspend occurring, I have asked the CFO to tighten the budgetary process, and he knows that I am saying this today. However, that said, the underspend is good news. For the reason it will help towards managing the financial pressures that RCC will experience this year. There is a long list. For example, unforeseen and unknown pandemic demands, a higher than anticipated pay award, the Environment Bill, which will change the way waste services are delivered and add costs to deliver, residential care uplift, potential rework of the local plan, subsidising the leisure contract, and there's some climate change work demands which are currently in definition. This names just some of the known challenges, and I'm sure there are more out there we don't know about yet. Having this cushion will hopefully mean the council won't have to dip any further into its reserves for this financial year, with the identified cost savings actually replenishing reserves and balancing our budget for the 21-22 budget. Remembering that we have a similar challenge already identified for 22-23, and thereby balancing the medium-term financial plan and replenishing the drawdown on reserves. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. Do we have any questions? If you can use your real hand, because I can't seem to get the screen to function as I would like this morning. Councillor Rizal.
Yeah, I think it's just important to underline that the last 18 months are beyond extraordinary. I don't think anybody could have planned for them. I think the directions that we've taken have been absolutely necessary and chime directly with the national direction. But for anybody to worry about the fact that we are in a position we're at now and didn't predict it, I think it would be unreasonable for anybody to predict given the circumstances we're in. So I'm very comfortable with where we are.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wilby, you had your hand up. You're on mute, Councillor Wilby, sorry.
Thanks. No, I'd just like to endorse what's already been said, and in particular to thank Sav and his team, because I've watched them on the virtual systems that we have. We run a very lean organisation because we're small, and I've seen the pressures that the guys have been under, particularly in trying to help our local community. And the service that they have done on various grant fundings that have changed from month to month has been absolutely colossal. And I know that the previous portfolio holder was probably the most prudent budget holder we've ever had. And I know that his legacy has kept us in good a good place. And I know that he's handed over to someone who has accepted that mantle and is already well into the starting blocks and moving down the line. So, you know, thank you, Sav, and your team for a great job and for keeping us on the straight and narrow. And we'll try very hard to remain that way as we go forward, because there are undoubtedly welfare claims, both from my portfolio with children's, where we're never quite sure what's coming around the corner, but we know that we have a statutory demand that we have to meet. So keep us on the straight and narrow, and Karen, I know that you'll keep us there as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Stevenson, you had your hand up.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, very, very well done. It's a really clear paper, and it's really good to see the summary of what came out of the scrutiny committee, showing that, you know, that function is working really well. The comment I wanted to make was with regard to 2.2.2, which is the principles. I think those are absolutely crucial going forwards. They will assist elected members to make good decisions with officer advice, and hopefully it will help the public to also understand nobody likes cutting things. However, the principles I think are really good, they're really sound, and it will mean that we move forward as a very strong county. So I'm really pleased to see those, and I'm really pleased to see them as a recommendation, which I wholeheartedly support, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I'd just like to say, I think the team have done a brilliant job, as already been said, but demand-led services are always difficult to predict. And I think that, there are pressures coming our way, and we just need to be wise. And I'm very glad that we have Sav and Karen to be looking after this for us and keeping us there. The portfolio holder in consultation cabinet recommends to council that it approves the principles in, sorry, Karen, did you want to?
No, sorry. No.
That's right. Approves principles in paragraph 2.2.2 to guide future work and decisions making in respect of budget savings. 2, approves budget savings of 598,000 to be applied to 21-22 and the changes to funding of 613,000. Item 3, delegates authority to the Director and Chief Finance Officer in consultation with the Chief Executive Leader and Portfolio Holder for Finance to spend 172k in invest to save plus 328,000 from 2021 anticipated underspend to fund support. If required, that will allow savings projects to be accelerated. And item 4 notes the provisional position on 2021 outturn paragraph 2.6 and that the provisional underspend does not change the projected gap of 2.7 million for 22-23. That's, can we have, I guess you're proposing that, I'm happy to second that. Can we have a show of hands that we're in support, please? Thank you. That is unanimous, I believe. Thank you very much. So I believe that there being no further business, we come to the end of the meeting at 10:27. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.